Hi, and thank you for joining us today for the Autodesk CFD webinar. Today I have the CFD product manager with us, Heath, and he's going to go over a little bit of what's new in CFD 2019.
Hi, everybody. My name is Heath Houghton, and I am the product manager for all the things fluid simulation at Autodesk. Actually use the product pretty extensively, so I'm one of those product managers that's pretty hands-on. If you've ever met me at AU, I'm glad to talk about the software at any time. But today we'll go over what's new in CFD 2019. Have a few slides and a bit of a live demo for some of the features. And particularly, the way I like to talk about this is not just what's new in 2019, but what's new since the last time we did a global launch, which is, in the spring of 2017, which we called CFD 2018. It's really confusing the way we do our numbers, but that's the way it works. But the overall agenda is, what's new since spring of last year. Basically, we did quite a few things in UI and results. So the user interface and results has a few upgrades and new features. We did some solver upgrades, which I'll talk about, and I want to talk about new entitlement for subscription customers, Fusion 360 Ultimate. We're discontinuing SimStudio Tools, and all the functionality that was in SimStudio Tools is in Fusion 360 Ultimate plus upgrades. And then there's a whole bunch of other things that are in Fusion 360 Ultimate besides the simplification stuff, and I'll talk about that a little bit. And then we did a whole packaging simplification as well. What I mean by that is the way you license and activate your software should be much simpler this year compared to previous years. So anybody who has ever had to install the software themselves or their IT people should be pretty darn happy with the changes we made. Having said that, I'll go through the UI and results. So we have increased the graphics performance. So the graphics engine behind our software, we periodically upgrade the libraries, we call them, and you get upgraded performance. So not every model, not every operation when it comes to graphics will get sped up, but a lot of them get sped up to 50% faster. So it's kind of hard to really quantify, hey, it's this model, it's that operation, but there are certain functions there that they get an automatic boost up to 50% faster. We did also start supporting, at this release, officially 4K monitors. I have a 4K monitor on my laptop. A lot of developers have 4K monitors. The backbones of our user interface, they didn't exist when we started creating the backbones of it. So not everything looks great on 4K monitors, but the one thing we absolutely did do for this release, and we're going to continually change things to where the scale and look are correct for 4K monitors. One thing you'll notice is that the canvas, where you see your model, where you see the little ruler and the legend, all those numbers used to be super tiny on 4K monitors, and there was no way to get around it. Now they automatically scale. So it doesn't matter what resolution you're at, the letters and numbers should be approximately the same size and readable for your monitors. So we'll continue to go through dialogue by dialogue. It's a lot of work, and start fixing all the things where they're scaled, open, and look correct, regardless if you have a traditional monitor or one of your 4Ks. We also added new results regions. So this is a completely new functionality, and I'm going to demo it here in a second. But basically, you've had the ability to do bulk regions, which is basically a slice through the model, and literally it's meant for flow and to give you your volumetric flow rate. It'll do like a velocity averaged results for everything else. But what we're doing with results region is specifically exactly average. It's a true average for right now, velocity, temperature, and scalar. Those are the three quantities. And we're going to expand that in the future. We already have it in our scope to expand, hopefully this year, at some point in an interim release. I can't guarantee you that, but we're going to expand results that you can get the average for to everything. But right now, it's velocity, temperature, and scalar. Mostly, if you're doing any kind of an AEC model, and you need like, hey, in this one room, I need the average temperature or the average wind speed, then this is great for that. And I'm going to demonstrate this real quick. It's a real quick way to get the true average values. So I'm going to get out of my presentation and we'll open up CFD. So I have that same model open. I partially solved it, so it's a little bit different, but we have our some server racks, and the question would be, what's the air temperature entering in on one of the interior racks versus an exterior rack? What's the velocity? Is it pretty equal? You'd want this to be as equal as possible. So what do you do to access the new results region? Right now, it's listed under planes. And, well, my little webinar thing is kind of covering up, but there's a new button called regions. And the benefit over the plane itself is, again, it's a true average, and you don't have to create a plane or anything, and it doesn't cut through the entire model. It cuts to whatever region you draw. So let me go ahead and add a rectangular region. Check this out. I don't have to draw on a plane. Whatever has color on it first. It's much like how to do the traces. So if I were to go ahead, start drawing, you see I have a plane here that it drew a rectangular plane. Hit calculate, and it'll tell you a few things. One, it'll tell you, obviously the region number, the volume. This domain exceeded. That means that actually I drew on the model somewhere outside of the model. So it's telling you, hey, you know what, that region, it's great, but some of the pieces of that region don't even exist inside the model. You went outside of it. But for what is inside of it, here's the average velocity, the average temperature, and since I didn't solve for scalar mixing, obviously it's going to give me a 0 there. But if I want to draw multiples of these, so I can grab this corner, let's add another one, right? We're going to add another rectangular region. It's kind of hard to see in my monitor because it's all blue. I should probably change the colors. But if I want this average velocity or temperature going into this model, go ahead and calculate again. So region 2, and I have, again, the velocity is 63 inches per second, 14 degrees Celsius. If I want to compare that to the interior, now, if I drew a plane and it was showing, it would be, obviously taking a sub-region of the plane as well, but I'm trying to show the fact that it doesn't have to be on a plane. So I have that region, hit calculate, and so 53 and 16.9 versus 63 and 14.7. So the interior is a little bit warm and a little bit lower velocity. That makes sense, right? You have a little bit lower velocity coming in on average, and it's going to be a little bit warmer. For these racks all generate the same amount of heat. So it's actually also getting warmer air. So if we wanted to, if our goal was to really get those exactly the same, we might alter the inlet air configurations. So that's just a real quick way to grab different data for the model. Now, one thing to note is, if I close this out, all of these regions disappear. This is a quick grab and average type of thing. They're not persistent, but again, we'll be altering the functionality, increasing the functionality of this as we move forward throughout our development cycles. That's the way it exists now, and we hope you enjoy being able to grab that data without going through some kind of API calls and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, so let's move forward. Let me go ahead and hit presenter mode again. Need to see if there were any questions on that real quick, so I'm going to go ahead and look at my presenter view. Okay, no questions showing just yet, so I think we'll move forward. All right, so that was UI and results. So results, and I have a video for results regions. We'll be uploading the presentation after the fact. So, you'll even have a video of it if you just want to look through the presentation. It's show you a very similar thing. So we did a lot of solver upgrades as well. Since spring of 2017, Specifically on 2018.1, which was at the end of September in 2017, we released another cloud service called Cloud Premium. Now this is a cloud compute option, but it's a cluster of machines. So regular cloud uses a very sophisticated, high-powered, single instance cloud compute worker. The Cloud Premium uses a whole cluster of them. So like, right, it depends on the job size, but like 17 of them. So it's way more resources being supplied to your model. And so the intent there is to have faster calculation speed. This graphic out of the way so you can see the whole graphic here. So basically, Cloud Premium uses what internally we're called CFD2. It's our next generation solver. It's a distributed memory solver. That's why you can use multiple computers on the same problem without running into too many issues on them bumping into each other for communication and stuff. But the main thing here is that it solves different problems right now at an increased speed compared to what you would consider your normal cloud option. So this is a graph meant to show that. Right? So external flow does really well. External flow takes a lot of iterations typically to solve, and our Cloud Premium, being a totally different solver, just really handles those well. So anywhere between, and this depending on the model size, anywhere between 5 to 15 times faster is what we're seeing on Cloud Premium when you compare it to our cloud solve for external flow. So aerodynamics, flow over a building, those type of analyses. We've even seen some that are considerably faster than that, and it's the way I call it an anomaly, but it's a good anomaly. So I will address a couple of questions here at the end of the slide. And so the ability to do external flow is tremendous, but it doesn't not do the other ones well. It just, that one is an exemplary condition of what Cloud Premium can offer, and we hope that all of them will eventually be at that same level. And we're working diligently towards that, actually. But for internal flow, for instance, somewhere between 4 and 6, so let's just say it's an average of 5x speed up. So you have a valve, flow control device, anything with flow, and it's going internally. They don't take as many iterations typically to solve. So Cloud actually does a pretty good job there. Cloud Premium does an even better job. It's like 5x typically faster. And then if you add thermal, there's a lot of communication things that have to go on for thermal. So initially when we released, it wasn't any faster, and we knew that we were going to be upgrading it, so we didn't want to leave it off the table for people to try out. But now flow and thermal is somewhere around 3 to 4 times faster than regular cloud jobs, and that goes across the span on size. Not all functionality is there yet in Cloud Premium, and the software will tell you, hey, that model has certain features that Cloud Premium can't solve yet. The CFD2 solver can't solve yet. And so basically the caveats now for it is we can't do compressible yet, and we can't do some of the thermal devices like compact thermal models or the LED devices, those types of devices. But fans, resistance regions, all of that stuff you can. So there's just a couple of really tiny caveats that, again, we're working towards. We don't want to wait until we have the Maserati while we already have a Cadillac, basically is the way I say it. Why not give somebody the Cadillac when you can, and then build it to be the Ferrari? And so as this progresses, we'll continually do interim updates, and you'll see more options available. But it is something that we released last year, and we're pretty happy about it. One of the questions that I got was one of the members asked if they missed it, or have we gone to a completely subscription model? And the answer is yes, we did that over a year ago. Autodesk as a whole is moving towards a subscription model. Now, if you're an existing customer and you have purchased software and you're on a maintenance contract, absolutely you can stay on that, but there's a lot of incentive to move to a subscription yearly model for our software. Okay, so that was the solver upgrades, and I have a whole thing on cloud solving, a video about the ways that we anticipate customers using how we envision using the cloud, using our software in order to increase your capacity on how you can solve problems faster. But what I want to talk about next is Fusion 360 Ultimate. Now, it is a subscription benefit. So we, in the past, have had SimStudio tools. And the whole point of SimStudio tools is like this graphic. Take a complex model and boil it down to the needs that you have for simulation. So in this case, electronics, that's actually the true Arduino test board. And there's certain aspects of it that are great for manufacturing, great for fit and finish, but when you're talking about doing a thermal analysis, really don't need them. As a matter of fact, they hinder the ability to do quick iterations on simulating the actual thermal performance of the model. So SimStudio Tools is deprecated. You can still use it if you have previous versions installed and all of that, but you'll notice in CFD 2019 we don't install it. But what we do provide for subscription customers, which is the only way you can really get 2019 as a subscriber, unless you're one of those legacy customers that's on maintenance. But you get SimStudio, you get an entitlement to Fusion 360 Ultimate. Now it has all the same enhanced, same simplification features that were in SimStudio Tools, actually with enhancements, and I'll demonstrate a few of those. But it also, Fusion 360 has a ton of other additional value. If you had any needs for structural design, you wanted to explore generative, if you wanted to explore how to use CAM, anything else, it's all in Fusion 360 Ultimate. It's not a watered down version that we're providing as a benefit. It's the entire thing. So let me demonstrate a little bit of Fusion 360 Ultimate real quick. I have a video on it as well in the PowerPoint. So if you need to go back and revisit, you don't have to listen to me. You can listen to somebody with a better voice and better video. But let me move to, there's emails. Awesome. So this is Fusion 360. So what happens is you upload your model and you get access to them. There's a whole bunch of other awesome benefits. You can have team sharing of models. You can work on them both at the same time, all that kind of stuff. There's tons of different work flows that are afforded with Fusion 360. But what I want to get to is, if I have a model, how do I use Fusion 360 with CFD? It's almost identical to what you do in SimStudio Tools, just with, again, upgrades. But there's a few key differences. Like I have this model here, and one thing you would notice is that instead of just everything on board, we have like different what we call workspaces. And in order to get to where you want to be for CFD, you actually enter into the simulation environment. And again, like I said, there are structural simulations you can do, but for CFD, really all you're wanting to do is simplify the model or alter it for simulation. And so the default mode is to go into simplify the model, and it will take you to the simplify workspace. And from there, you get access to all the same tools you had before. We had the same creation, fluid volumes, all the other things you're used to seeing in SimStudio Tools, and all the modify, like remove features, remove faces, replace the primitives, and all that. So we have all those capabilities inside of the Simplify environment. Now this model doesn't really have much use for me for CFD, so I'm going to actually switch over to that Arduino I was showing. Again, if I were to hop out of the Simplify environment and go back to model, that's the base model with all the features and details. We don't actually modify the base model, I guess the highest level instance of it. What's cool about it is that we actually, when we're in the Simplify environment, we're modifying derivatives of it that are actually associative to this model. So anything I change here, and if I've done something to simplify, or I move this in the downstream derivatives, you get it moved also in the analysis version of it, which is a pretty cool feature. It allows for rapid change and evolution of your overall model. But I'm going to go back to the simulation environment and into the Simplify sub-environment there. And what's nice about having them as derivatives is this. Check this out. I can go through and have multiple versions of simplifications. So I have here where I've gone ahead and changed the Arduino to have, where these USB ports and power ports were, instead of having all the sheet metal and details there. Well, I went ahead and replaced the primitives and on a couple of the connectors as well. You'll notice that there's still a lot of the holes if I hover over this, and you can see all the holes where all the connectors are. Well, what if I went a little step further and I did replace the primitives on quite a few more things, got rid of the extra holes? I can go that far, and then I can show you, well, another derivative of that. What if I went even a step further, and it might have been kind of subtle, but here's some capacitors and that have a little bit of the detail, not all the imprintation that you might have seen on the first model, but you have some of the detail. And if I want to go even further, make it all blocky, boom, there we are. How do I do that? Now, these features in SimStudio Tools were there, but they're actually a little bit better in the Fusion 360 Ultimate version. So I'm going to actually backtrack. Here's another thing that's really, really cool. Check this out. It's a timeline. So I can actually see my progress as I go through and make changes, and I can back up, insert new features. If I run the model, I find, oh, I forgot to do one thing, and I want to do it here, and then have my fluid created afterwards. Then we can start inserting new things. So check it out. So what is this one? It's there was a remove features. It took some of the detail off of a part. Boom. We have more remove features, so you can start seeing how I progressed. And here we have where we added a component, remove more features. So remove all these features and components. And then here's replace the primitive. I want to show you how to replace the primitive actually works. So in the past, you had to replace the primitive, and it would just encapsulate the entire outer domain of the body. And then afterwards, you could then modify it again. Well, replace the primitive actually has a little bit of an upgrade. So if I select the entire component, and you see the component here, and I actually hover over this thing so I can get the entire thing. So the entire, now that's the outer shell. That would be your last bit of modification that you could do inside of replace the primitive. Actually, you could grab these drag bars and move them, but look at the cool thing I can do with the grab bars now. I can actually say, you know what, I want to drag it to exactly the board. It's a little bit of a time saving feature. So I can grab, drag, and then snap. That was not in SimStudio Tools, so this is a way to get even a more accurate representation of what your intent is when you're simplifying the model. And again, you can do the replace all occurrences. This one only happens to have the one, but if I replace, then you see the new design. Matter of fact, I don't like the way this is all gray, so I'm going to color cycle toggle so you can see the differences between the parts. Again, this is a really simple thing. So this is a multi-part assembly here. If I want to do another replace with primitive, again, I'll do components instead of bodies because I want the entire thing. And I don't want just that chip. I want all of it. Did I get all of it? No, I did not. So let's make it both of those components. And that's all I want. Yep. So when I go through and do it, again, I want it to be flush with the board. And I think that this size for the rest of it looks just fine with me. And that's replacing with primitive. So again, the SimStudio Tools, yeah, it's going through and doing the process there. That's a pretty complicated sub-assembly, or two parts in the assembly. So that is the one of the main differences between SimStudio Tools and Fusion 360. We have different derived models. We can go through the timeliner. That timeline is actually really nice for me. And if you go and modify the base model up in the modeling tree, like you move stuff around or whatever, it updates here. So I won't harp on that too long. I think that's pretty extensive. I don't see any questions on that, so I'll continue to move forward with the rest of the presentation. Oh, well, actually, you know what? I almost forgot. Again, CFD, other features. So we didn't water it down one bit. So you're on subscription, there's generative design there for you. So generative design, I'm not going to go through a demo of that, but if you're wondering what structural generative design, it's, you know, multi-objective optimization of structural parts. You can use that brand new service. It's part of the subscription because we are Fusion 360 Ultimate. And then any other things, you know, like CAM or, you know, the other parts, that those are also part of the subscription. So it's pretty much an upgrade all across the board for anything you could have done in SimCO tools, plus a ton more. Okay, so that was that. And again, I have a video you can watch through more details than just the one that I showed in this webinar on the video. But the one thing that I'm pretty excited about also is I've been lobbying for this for years because I saw the struggles we were having for customers. It's just, you know, the big machine of Autodesk has a lot of benefits, like you would see with the Fusion 360, but it had a little bit of a drag on. We came into Autodesk as a company or as a product with a different way of licensing than the normal ecosystem for Autodesk was used to. So it ended up being a little bit of a hassle when you're doing the installer and then activating, because we had two licenses, two actual sold products. And I won't go into all the details, but basically you had to act like you were installing twice almost in order to get both licenses activated. Well, we went through and finally got the packaging simplified. We used to have 3 levels of solving. We're only going to 2, and the interface is just included with that one solver. So instead of being confusing and saying, hey, it's base, motion, or pre, or, you know, advanced, we just said we're going to rename everything and make it real simple. There's 2 versions of the software. It's premium or ultimate. You're only buying one thing, and you get all of it when you buy that one thing. So I'm going to make 2 separate purchases. So your purchasing teams will be very happy about that. And there's one single activation. So the thing about that will make everybody happy. Your licensing difficulties or struggles, but if you first started using the software, and you're like, I don't understand this licensing. Why do I have to, you know, do these things twice and, you know, piece the license together? None of that has to happen anymore. It's all automatic. We should see a huge drop in questions around licensing and activation. In addition, with the packaging, we actually amplified your cloud access. So if you buy, or if you subscribe to CFD Premium, which has the advanced level, so all the solving capabilities in the solver except for solid body motion, if you are subscribed to that level, you could actually solve the solid body motion analyses on the cloud. Now, you can't solve them local because your licenses would be at the premium or advanced level, but you could actually take a taste. Like, oh, I have a very intermittent use of solid body motion, but every once in a while, you could actually say, okay, well, I'll just solve that one on the cloud. And so that is an amplified benefit, in addition to simplifying the overall experience of buying, installing, activating our product. And that, I told Matt it would be about 30 minutes, and I'm almost exactly on time. So that's about 30 minutes of presentation on what's in 2019 at 2019.0. Moving forward, we plan and update 2019.1. That, don't hold me to the dates, but our planned date is this summer. Last summer we had a 2018.1. This summer we plan on having a 2019.1. We don't just do bug fixes in these updates. There are actually features that become available that are net new. And so you can count on that. We have plans and stuff that's kind of waiting in the wings for our next release at 2019.1. So we'll have some updated blog articles and et cetera about that as they come about. But that's the continual, I guess, cadence you should start to count on. We'll always have a year change moving forward. So it'll be a CFD 2020, a CFD 2021. But in the meantime, at those releases in between, there will be features added along the way. I can't talk about the features because not all of them are fully done yet. So, but there will be new features rolling out throughout this this year. All right. I guess we can take questions if there are any. A lot of times people just take the recording or they kind of get this wherever they can. Yeah, so the one question we had was about subscription versus perpetual, and I think we've already answered that one. I think that's it. Matt, do you want to say anything to the attendees before we end the webinar?
No, not really. As always, we'll send out an email with the recording. You can get the slide deck on a box link. We'll upload this to YouTube, and feel free to reach out. Thanks a lot, Heath, for this presentation.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Always willing to explain where we're going with the software.
Awesome.
And take questions about where we're not.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for attending, and we'll see you at the next webinar.